Good evening. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's broadcast of the Kalza Power Up Cup. I am Frosty, joined by Sun Phoenix. Today, we're going to give you XvG Ragnarok versus Powered Up Possoms, spelled entirely correctly. No mistakes there. Sun, tell us, what are we expecting this evening?
Well, we know a little bit of what we're expecting from one of these teams. Of course, last week Sunday we had the pleasure of watching XvG Ragnarok play. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very pleasurable experience for them, I don't think, because they got dominated by Blackwatch, which, to be fair, is a team that will be doing a lot of dominating throughout this tournament, I suspect. So there's no shame in losing to them, but unfortunately for them, they kind of came out that with, I think, a lot of lessons to learn. So this week they'll come up against Powered Up Possoms, as you say, spelled perfectly correctly. I would know a thing or two about spelling something very close to you very correctly. And they're a team who not quite on the level of Blackwatch. They're on paper maybe a step below XvG Ragnarok, or otherwise on the same level. So I'm expecting this to be a much closer game, a much better reflection of these two teams' skill levels. But we're going to have to wait and see. Of course, we don't know how these teams all work together that well. We might recognize a lot of players on both teams, but how well they work together is what we're going to find out tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you said both teams suffering a loss, both teams suffering a 3-0 loss as well. So any maps that are won for either team is going to be the first ones they've won this tournament. So obviously, probably feeling like they really want to get into this, and as well with the Swiss style double elimination, they've had their first one. Right, there's no more second chances. Everything right now is do or die. You have to win all your matches. You can lose maps, obviously you prefer not to, but you can.
I think this is Swiss, so I don't think there's an elimination after this. Right? Am I wrong?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so it's like a group stage, except you don't play everybody. I think that's the gimmick of a Swiss style. So if you have a huge group, you don't want to have 14 games or 12 games in a 13-team group. A Swiss style means you'll play 4 or 5 games, but every time you lose, you'll only play against other people who also lost.
I think I figured out my mistake.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, is it Swedish double elimination? Is that?
Yes, Swedish is GSL style, where match one, winners play each other, losers play each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had the wrong
In my
European
opinion,
country.
that's the best group stage format.
That's true.
This is Swiss, which makes sense if you have one big group. And you can't have a million teams. Anyways, that's kind of side thing.
That's a bit of a side thing here. Yeah. So take it back. They don't have to win this, and they're out. They can afford to lose. Obviously, you don't want to. But as you said,
this is a 4-week tournament, right? So you really can't afford to be 2 games down. You've only got 2 more matches after that, and at that point, it's pretty dire. So you want to be starting to push towards that. So it definitely is important, as you were implying earlier, but it's not quite do or die just yet.
Yes, okay, not just yet. Yeah. So, as you said, the XvG Ragnarok on paper should be the team, the team to beat this game. But I mean, last week we thought XvG versus up against Blackwatch would be a very even match. Yeah. Right. We thought it would be pretty much like neck and neck. And I mean, the skills of the players probably quite similar to each other. It might have just come down to maybe communication or practice, or just how the players happen to interact with each other, how the team comps interact with each other. XvG Ragnarok seem to be very keen on meta style compositions. So if obviously they've probably scrimmed and stuff since then. So let's see if Powered Up Possoms can bring in something wacky, something a little bit unexpected. Then maybe they could throw off Ragnarok and get themselves at the very least a couple map points, maybe a win or 2. Maybe they can take it through. Yeah,
look, I think we come into this one a little, obviously I did say I think on paper Ragnarok is the stronger team. Powered Up Possoms is also more of a pug team that kind of were thrown together just before the tournament, whereas Ragnarok has been together since October, as I said last week, and they've been working and scrimming and training since then, and they've got Blur as a coach. So this is a team you'd expect to come in a lot more prepared than their opponents on any given day. And I think last week what we actually saw was that the quality of individual skill on Blackwatch was extremely high, and so the Ragnarok players couldn't really leverage their preparation and their teamwork to overcome that skill differential. In this game, however, I think Powered Up Pups on paper should be much more closely matched on a player by player level, and so Ragnarok might have a much easier time leveraging their preparation, their teamwork, their synergy into map wins. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing as a difference today. But we know all the players on Powered Up Possoms, as we'll see in a moment. And I think there's plenty of potential for them to, as you say, either throw up some wacky stuff or just play into their own comfort zone, their comfort heroes. That'll kind of can push them quite far in this match.
Yeah, especially at like, the elo that, I mean, pretty much all the teams in South Africa in this entire tournament play, that kind of usually between mid-plat, diamond. Obviously some teams do get a bit higher, looking up at Typo and Beastie Boys, that kind of stuff. Obviously it's a little bit higher.
Even Blackwatch as well.
Blackwatch as well, yes. If you're sitting in that thing, it's pretty much entirely like what you can make work, right?
Yes.
Is kind of where it comes down to. So if you're playing an entirely off-meta composition, like I'm not even going to try and name something. I'm just going to start naming like 5 characters that have like absolutely nothing to do with each other. It's probably end up being like Overwatch leagues like next Netacom. Because the scrim the other day that had Torb Tracer as the 2 DPS the entire time. So like it's entirely what like you make work. So I think that will just be kind of what it comes to, as you said there. So once we'll get a chance to look at the rosters here, we'll be able to say, these ones, like maybe he's looking more towards this one, a good hit scan. Rexu, for example, we know Rexu very proficient on that hit scan role. Going to be coming up against Babs, I assume.
Babs usually plays projectile DPS. He plays his Genjis, his Pharah, that sort of thing. So I would assume it's James, but we don't really know James for his DPS. Scars will be playing tank, so he does do any hit scan. That'll be very unexpected.
I've seen Scars on his scan, so
the Scars is a punishment, not a strength, right? So I think we can run through the teams here. We're still waiting for a player here, which is why we're just delaying a little bit. I think Rinku's power comes on at 8, so any second he should be joining the party here. But if we run through the rosters quickly, we know XvG Ragnarok very well. We saw them last week. It's Rinku Hareru on the DPS, Rexu also on the DPS, Lord of Terrans, of course, moving over as a DPS previously, now on that main tank role or only tank role. And then we've got KK and Restiosen on the support. So we won't talk too much about them. We're very familiar with what they can do after watching them last week. But we would be expecting to see, from what we saw last week, a lot of Winston, a lot of Kiriko, Lucio, I think they were playing.
Kiri, Lucio, Sojourn.
And then Sojourn, and also the Echo from Rinku is quite critical. And then obviously Rexu is quite a focal point in terms of DPS coming out of this team. So if Rexu is given the space to pop off, Ragnarok's going to do pretty well.
Yeah. And that'll be kind of Lord of Terran's kind of main objective, obviously making space for his team, but particularly making space for his hitscan player. Rinku Hareru, we saw some very good dives along with Terran last week. Let's see if they can get that same kind of synergy going into this match coming up here. As you mentioned, let's try and look at the part of Possoms that are going to be their opponents here. On the tank, as mentioned before, we have Scars, we have James and Babs. On the DPS, once again, players that have been around, Zeta Overwatch for quite a while. You were talking earlier about what team James is on, and I've slipped my mind. We'll get back to that now.
He used to be, 2019? Oh, God, 2019. I don't know. But 2019, I think he was in EVO, and then he moved on to Vanguard in 2020. So he's been on some pretty decent teams with some pretty decent players, but he was playing off-tank at that time. Mostly knew him, I want to say, for his Diva. That's what the association I have in my head. So now he's moved over to DPS, a little bit different, but definitely a transition that makes a lot of sense. You end up being quite damage focused as an off-tank a lot of the time. So
I was an off-tank back in my day, so
same actually.
I'm
sad and angry, and I moan about it at least once a cast about how my role just got removed from the game. And now I'm orphaned in the middle of nowhere. But whatever. I watched it.
I'm fine. I'm not sad. You're sad.
No. I have no feelings.
Yes, no, for sure. I'm sure my supports would tell you just how much DPS I did focus on back in the day.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Speaking of which, instead of the regular support part of Possoms to have in Glue, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm really sorry. We will have Milky as the main support for Powered Up Possoms. Milky being a player from Hellhounds who probably a lot lesser known team, my old team from Kaza. We never really played in tournaments, so obviously if people don't know, it makes a little bit of sense. KK also was the flex support for that team, but obviously previous teams before that.
Yes.
And rounding out that support lineup is probably a very unknown player in Cersei, whose on-screen name is Nevi. So we'll have Nevi and Milky on support. So is for a lot of people, especially if you've been watching ZA Overwatch for a while, probably won't know either of those players, so they will have a good chance to put their names on the board here.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna see what they're made of today, and Ragnarok can be quite a tough team to come up against as a support, because you'd expect them, as I've said now a couple of times, you expect them to come in quite prepared, and teams that are very prepared tend to dominate the backline.
It's
so
true.
That could end up being a rough start for them, but of course this will be their second game in the tournament at least, so they've got some experience playing at this level. But I think the focus on this game is, for me, going to be a battle between the DPSs. So we're looking at Rexu, we're expecting something special out of him, as he so often delivers. And I think that was a key last week to the troubles, is that they were getting dominated out of the sky from Pharah, so he wasn't really able to exert himself on the match, unfortunately. And then, of course, looking at the other side, I think Babs is usually a standout player on a lot of his teams. He tends to focus on your projectile DPS. He loves his Genji. I believe it's his favorite hero, and he'll pull it out anytime he can make it work, and sometimes even if he can't. And then he's pretty comfortable on the Pharah as well, which we saw be such a huge key to the match last week. And then I'm interested to see what James brings to the table. As I said, we know he's an off tank, so how well does he transition? Of course, we see Terran transitioning the other way from DPS to tank, so we know it can be done, but I'm interested to see what James can do as well, for sure.
Yeah, I think the reason I thought Babs would be on Hitscan is actually, I think I played, I'm not sure if it was Pugs or a ranked match or a scrim against James, and as far as I remember, he was playing Hanzo for like the majority of.
He loves his Hanzo.
So I think that was kind of why I was like, okay, cool, that must be the projectile. So the hit scan has got to obviously be Babs, so someone I've never really played against or with or seen, So
you're talking about James, sorry.
Yeah, I was saying James.
Okay. So maybe they've switched. I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see. It really depends on who's more comfortable on what. But I know Babs as a projectile player, but we're gonna see now for sure.
Yeah, I think we do. It does look like we are going to have a bit of maybe a temporary substitution for XvG Ragnarok. Cyberblade is going to be coming in for Rinku Herrera until presumably their power does come back. So for the first map, at least we will have Cyberblade and Rexu as the DPS for XvG Ragnarok.
Yeah, I think that's pretty rough. I don't know what's he usually subs in as support in place of Restios, so I don't know if he plays DPS, how comfortable he is. We're gonna have to wait and see. We will be starting here though on Busan, one of our control maps, as we know very well. As with every control map, a lot of different things can happen on the different stages of this map. We see a lot of brawl on Mecha base in the city center stage, whatever that map is called, can be dominated by Hitscan and Pharah as well. So I'm interested to see two things. Yes, there we go. I'm interested to see how much Pharah do we get and how dominant is that hero, just given the complexion we saw from Ragnarok's last game, and B, we see a Ramatra. We saw so much of that in our first two games that we casted last week, and then none of it in the Blackwatch game. So I'm fascinated to see, looking towards part of Possoms and Scars, if he wants to bring out the big Omnic Brawler.
Well, not teasing it just as of yet. Right now, teasing the Wrecking Ball for us. And I'd imagine this is the comps we're going to see, especially from Ragnarok. As we said, they're very keen on this like meta-style comp of Kerry, Lucio, Winston, Sojourn, and then kind of they seem to switch Rexu around a bit, but Rexu very happy on the Tracer, I know. Yeah. And we actually almost got mirror comps here, only real James and Scars, so a lot more hardcore dive coming in from the Possum, with the more traditional dive coming in from Ragnarok, yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Tracer Genji dive was obviously very popular at one point in time, but that was long before Hammond was in the game. So, yeah, I think you're right about that. I'm interested to see here what is going to go down. We see, look how aggressive the Genji is getting there. But Babs will be the first to drop.
Yeah, Babs the first to drop, and actually Cyberblade, who you mentioned earlier as the support player, was the first to get a kill here. Scar is looking to be in a bit of a spot of bother, and Lord of Terran in the backline. They're taking out both Nevi, James, followed up quickly by Rexu, and that should be a very quick fight win here for XvG. Very happy with that one.
A little bit of over-aggressive there, I think, from James. Of course, he's not the one that dropped first, but you could see how Tracer Babs had to follow up there very aggressively as well, and he ends up getting picked off by a right click from Cyberblade. So a slow start here for powered up Possoms, and we can see how Ragnarok is sitting here, controlling this high ground with the Kiriko, with Terran on the Winston as well. It's going to be tough to push through here, but Babs has immediately switched onto the Reaper. I like the switch just to take the pressure off his backline. Winston not going to have as easy of a time being aggressive on top of his teammates.
Yeah, not so easy here. We'll see Rexu chasing out James and forcing out that deflect already. Rexu at the backline. Oh, he's looking for a pulse bomb here, I'd imagine, and forced out the recoil already. Lord of Terran jumps straight in, and that's another very quick fight win there for XvG Ragnarok. I don't think Powered Up Possoms had a single chance to breathe there.
No, not at all. I think that was really nicely played by XvG Ragnarok. They just perfectly managed the dive. They didn't get aggressive to start off. They let the damage go through slowly. They let Rexu put the pressure on from the backline. They forced him into the corner, and at the exact right moment, Terran picked his spot. He jumps in, he picks for somebody, and they just constantly whittling them down and then pulling the trigger just at the perfect moment. So that's pretty much exactly how you want your dive to go. You saw what Possoms did in the first fight, right? Just get ultra aggro right at the start and try and kill them right at the beginning of the team fight. But that's the better way to do it is the way that Ragnarok did it. Just read the fight, force the team to do what you want to do, and then execute at exactly the right moment.
Yeah, for sure. Probably also worth noting, Scars has actually switched over to the Reinhardt now. I think he did already the previous fight, but I noticed it now. So kind of like looking more to like anti-dive that you see, BTS fan and Scars kind of like making sure that Terran can't get as much value as they would like to, but Terran doesn't really seem to care. Terran's very happy to come through. Yeah, we're expecting obviously a Primal Rage to be jumping through, and just once again Rexu being an absolute menace here in the backline. Yeah,
this is how, as a player who's against a good Tracer like this, you see how they keep turning to deal with that, and they've made no progress. Look how much time Rexu is buying for his team here. Every time they move forward, he just comes through. Sure, he's going to tank one of those, but the follow-up's not there. As I say that though, James tracks him down, takes him down, so a great start for Possoms.
Yeah, James getting the first kill for Powered Up Possoms there, although unfortunately BTS fan is traded out. It does look like they're getting a bit of value here, Powered Up Possoms, and there comes a beat out from Milky, very quickly built up there on the back end, also a Cyberblade there. All the ults coming out from Powered Up Possoms right now, and it's really going to be only KK's Kiriko rush that is going to stand on their way, but I think that might be just enough for XvG to clean this up, and Powered Up Possoms are in a very dire situation right now, son.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not looking good. It's Babs on point. How close is he to Death Blossom? Probably not close. Now Pulse Bomb sends him to the grave as well. Rexu not even going to give him a chance to get that. With the wick ticking down, that will be it. And I think what we suggested might be happening here is happening. Just looking a lot more well put together is XvG Ragnarok, at least to start off with.
For sure, yeah. I mean, this is kind of, you can see here what you were talking about, that preparation, right? That comes through from the teams, right? You can just see how clean and coordinated the dives are from XvG Ragnarok, and that's not to say that Powered Up Possoms are like not coordinated, should I say? It's just that like XvG is it's almost like instantaneous, right? Rexu gets someone low, that he backs up a little bit. Oh, they chase him. Okay, cool. Well, goodbye. You've now isolated yourself, and you're dead. It's just done so well.
Absolutely, very well done. And then you also see compositionally, they're not quite sure what they want to do on the side of Powered Up Possoms. There's a lot of switching there. Of course, you expect them to be responding to what's happening in the match, and that is always good to see. I think we saw last week Ragnarok actually a little bit inflexible, and that was one of their problems in that match. So good to see Possoms, at least to start off with, being flexible. The Reinhardt from Scars is a big comfort pick. He will play Reinhardt any chance he gets. So I think it makes sense. If you're feeling like you're a bit in the back foot, put yourselves on heroes you can express yourself on and see what you can get done. Looking at this though, a total compositional switch here for Powered Up Possoms. Skipping the Rhine, going with the Moira instead of the Kiriko, coming in with the May and Bastion. So this should be very interesting to watch, Frosty.
Yeah, this is going to keep Lord of Terran on his toes entirely. I mean, they're able to isolate it so quickly and just burst down. There it is. Immediately burst down. I was saying there, both Rexu and Cyberblade are putting pressure on here, but being down their main tank, that's just so much pressure for them to deal with here. Cyberblade is in a world of trouble right now, but it's starting to actually leave him instead of focusing on the point where it is just KK, who's probably just going to teleport away. And yeah, it looks like that will probably be a fight cleanup. But as I say that though, the kills coming through from XvG.
Yeah, a little bit slow to pick off the lagging behind targets. Scars going ham here with the hammer on the point. Gonna get taken down though. Yeah, look at this pick off the pick coming from XvG Ragnarok. So they got that first cap and now they're cleaning up nicely. So Powered Up Possoms not converting a good start into a team fight win, but they'll come into this next team fight with a few ultimates pretty close to being ready. But I suspect we might see Rexy here just force him to wait a little bit longer with a pulse bomb.
Yeah, Rexy is looking quite dangerous with this pulse bomb here. It's probably going to come through quite quickly here. There it comes. There's James already off the board. That should be a backup now for Powered Up Possum, should I say. But it looks like they're actually still going in here. That is a lot of ult charge that you're willing to give up here. If you're Powered Up Possums, looks like they are going to head out now, though.
Oh yeah, well, they're losing players now. One way or another, they're going to head back to spawn, be it the fast way or the slow way here. But perhaps he finds that pick. If he can just not get taken down, you know, Terran's like, well, let me deal with this guy quick. He gets stuck, but he's not even going to take any damage. So yeah, looking pretty... Oh, that was the ICBM from McCree, not a pulse bomb. So yeah, look, it's pretty rough for Possums right now. The other shadow from Scars... never mind.
That happened.
Forget I said anything. Forget I said anything.
Yeah, shit, that was I'd say counts to curse, but that really counts as cost to curse at this point here. Powered Up Possums showing both support ultimates here though, so they better convert off this. That's a lot of like sustain and everything on their side. They will be going through. Is taken out and except like different to that first fight there where they just decided not to kill him. So big bit of the damage out there from XvG. Look at the kills coming there. Rex, who has another pulse bomb already, taking out Milky, who probably will be the first one back for the side of Powered Up Possums. And yeah, this is now a nice cap for Powered Up Possums. Just got to clean up the remaining members of XvG, and that should be a very clean fight win.
Yeah, very, very nice. Cyberblade a little bit out of position. They're kind of lagging behind his team on the retreat, and you don't really want your Sojourn, frontlining like that. So good job from Possums taking advantage of that, and they managed to do that pretty lean as well. So they've got some ultis coming to this fight. The Death Blossom might be key, and here it is.
Yeah, there comes that Death Blossom. Yeah, it does actually take out Lord of Terran. They put it on top of the Deadeye, should I say. And yes, that's both DPS ults out of the way. They're choosing not to chase after Keiko, who probably will just teleport back into it. There she is, straight back in. I was really hoping they would chase them down here, considering there's only 2 players. Powered Up Possums choosing to play this quite slow, and I think they're probably pretty happy with that.
Yeah, you're happy to be on this comp in this position for sure. You want to be holding up the choke here with the Reinhardt, and the team can back him up. But here come XvG Ragnarok getting aggressive here. Terran almost up to the ulti, dropping so low, gets taken down. Shadow to follow up as well.
Yeah, Shadow to follow up, beat Babs taking out Lord of Terran here, Scott's taking out KK. Both of those are traded out though. XvG Ragnarok and Powered Up Possums looking quite even now, and it does look like they actually get the point. Scores with a heroic inspirational charge onto Restios and manages to take them out there. And Rexu is now going to be causing some havoc alongside of his main tank Terran. The beat is dropped by Milky, building up these beats actually incredibly quickly. Is the main support for Powered Up Possums here. Rexu once again just being an absolute nuisance. ICBM takes out Cyberblade, and it looks like actually Ragnarok want to win this here and now. Being very happy, just throw bodies at the point, and why not if you're in this position?
Yeah, they're in control of the point as well, so they don't care what happens here. If they lose, they've lost nothing, right? So just come and look at that, so close to taking down the wick. Here comes the big bad monkey with the big bad ulti. He's going to look to pop or force them off the point, even if he doesn't get any kills here. And it's all going XvG Ragnarok's way at the moment here. Kirkarash going to pump the damage, pump the speed as well, but Scars is back. He's aggressive on the front line here. He's closing in an ulti as well. That could end up being the key in Babs as well, if you can build this. But Cyberblade helping off here, the support with the ultimate, the overclock, will send Powered Up Possums to map 2 on the lot.
Yeah, Powered Up Possums, they had the point there. What I can see so far, it just looks like Powered Up Possums have a little bit of trouble with target prioritization.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
It's just an issue that XvG Ragnarok have right now. You just saw one person always just going down. I mean, this is going to be Cyberblade coming through here with this absolute, like, monstrous overclock. Sojourn's ultimate being obviously very, very powerful. And yeah, the support that you mentioned earlier is really showing you that adaptability is key in the game of Overwatch.
Yeah, Rinku's back, so I wonder if do we even sub him in here, because seems like Cyberblade's doing a pretty good job.
I'm very happy,
yeah, they are subbing Rink in here, but I agree with you 100% about the target prioritization. That's something you see a lot in teams who are either not individually at a huge skill level, because what tends to happen when you're very good is that you're picking the correct targets each time. And so if every player is picking the correct target, it's usually the same target, which is what makes getting kills so much easier. On top of the fact that if you got cracked aim, you can just two-shot everybody or something. I don't know. I don't know what that feels like. But also you see that with teams who are a lack of target prioritization from teams who are not all on the same page as much, which is what we would have expected from powered up Possoms. So that's not too surprising, but I agree with you 100%. It kind of cost him that team fight there. On twice on that map, they got ahead and weren't able to convert that into a team fight victory. So that's going to be a key learning coming away from Busan for powered up Possoms. But as we head into our next map here, we're going to have to see how quickly they can address that. But of course, we know, Frosty, Koth maps or control maps are not, they're chaotic, they're brawly. Your natural talent as a synergistic unit comes to the fore. New Queen Street, you can be a lot more comfortable on a more brawly style, I think. Oh, actually not so much. But maps where you can set up a nice defensive position, or the maps happen in phases. You can get set up nicely and execute, and teams tend to feel a little bit more comfortable doing that. So maybe this is where powered up Possoms can thrive, but you'd have to think on paper it's getting worse, because now Cyberblade is out, replaced with Rinku, who would be their normal player. So you expect Ragnarok to get a lot better. So the one chance for victory might have been out the window, but I have faith in powered up Possoms to at least show us something here.
For sure. I mean, like, also, as you said there, control, it can be a team's just like their weakness, right? I think it was Shock. Was it Shock last season? That was like incredibly good. They like won 19 matches in a row, but just could not win a control map, right? For ages. So I mean, let's hope for the Shock curse here for powered up Possoms. You know, hopefully they're a little bit stronger on push map. I know you said New Queen Street not the greatest map for brawl, and I mean I agree with you. I'm not gonna argue that. But on the bright side, a push type map, right? You can force a brawl a little easier because you can just bunker down on that robot. Not ideal, but you can do it if you're really in a pinch.
Yeah, I think it's rough though, because we can see what Rex is able to do on control maps, and it's way worse. There's so many paths through these maps for a Tracer to get in your backline and ruin your support's days. So they are not going to start with a brawl. They're going to start with Scars on the ball here instead. But I mean, just look at this Rex. He's like, hello, anybody on the team here? He's just going to empty 5 or 6 clips into the ball, and James will be the first to drop on the other side of the map.
Yeah, while Scars was focused on Rexu, who actually ends up winning that duel out. Rexu actually just forced Scars out of that fight entirely. Like, Scars was never a part of that. And while Rexu was there, I mean, with the Tracer play never really playing with the team, here's Lord of Terran and the rest of XvG Ragnarok chasing powered up Possoms into their spawn already. The bot has barely even walked a meter, son.
Yeah, Restio-san not going to have a fun game. He's just kind of babysitting the robot here, while the rest of the team has a fun time on the front line. So life of a support, you'd rather be doing this than be doing what powered up Possoms supports are doing, which is running for their lives and being wrecked by some very, very scary DPS. But Scars, he's going to start things off here with the pile driver, but I mean, look at that background, already losing one of their supports.
Yeah, that entire bomb was built on Scars, right? Rexu just hounded him down and was like, okay, we'll continue this. Lord of Terran combining with the DPS. Look at the strength of this dive here. Powered up Possoms don't even have a chance to play the game right now. I think maybe what would be best for them, take a little bit of time to kind of just reset, right? Get everyone on the same page and then come back into it, because right now you're just being bullied a little bit.
Yeah, but you need to find a solution for Rexu here. You can't let him just dominate the backline like this, and it's really quite difficult to deal with the Tracer. You're kind of leaning on either one of your DPS or your supports to be able to hold their own in that duel for a while. Otherwise, you're in trouble, because Scars cannot sit back and defend his teammates. You can't really do that as a main tank in Overwatch 2 like you could as an off tank in Overwatch 1. And they've traded some kills here, but it's still looking pretty bad. But they do at least have some sort of spawn advantage and a Valkyrie now to take this fight.
Yeah, the Valkyrie, I think, is huge from Milky. Rexu does unfortunately get the 2 final blows on the DPS of powered up Possoms. I was going to say, James coming onto this Cassidy here is huge. Huge survival there on the Zarya after the pulse bomb there, but I think so many resources were shoved in. Rinko Ray just actually cleans up that fight there. And once again, look at this dive going through. These kills are literally all those 3. It is Rinko Ray, Rexu, and Lord of Terran. That is all you see in the kill on the left-hand side of the kill feed here. KK making a bit of a cameo, but I think we might even see a cap here, son.
I wouldn't be shocked at all. This is one of the more dominant push maps you'll ever see. Scars is back in the mix now with his ultimate 70% charge. He's all by his lonesome, though. Does have backup now in the form of a couple of supports, but he's having to do a lot of work here, and the supports are having to put a lot of effort into keeping him alive and looking at any time he's not getting direct team from his supports, he's dropping under 50%, but he's building up towards that ulti, 90%. If he can get one of those out, that might just be exactly what they need to relieve the pressure here.
Well, there it comes. An absolutely massive grab there. Responded immediately by Restioson, who's probably had to build that ult charge passively at this point. Yeah, that is unfortunately, I think, all she wrote for this map, as it looks like XvG Ragnarok, with an absolutely monstrous performance, are going to make this a 2-0 in dominant fashion.
This is like the literal fastest you can win any map in Overwatch.
Literally.
Because push is the potential to be the fastest, but Kiriko was presumably a couple of dinks in here from the back line from KK. Very nice to see some love for the supports here. It's mostly healing in the grab. Ah, that's what it is. Okay. I think you were right about the key really was in that team fight specifically, Restio-san with the beat that kind of just was the nail in the coffin for Possoms on New Queen Street. I like the switch from Scars there, actually. I think the Zarya was a good pick. He can kind of be a central zone for the team to play around. He can pump up a ton of damage and also kind of prevent his supports from getting yoinked in 1 second, one time every 8 seconds or whatever, without putting himself out of position, most importantly. But unfortunately, it was A, too little too late, and B, the DPS are just getting dominated in this game. No disrespect to James, a BTS fan. Obviously, a lot of that is reflective of a general uncoordination. Your DPS will always struggle to look amazing when the team is struggling in general. But I think we need to see James and Babs try and go for those duels a bit more with Rexu, especially because he's just in the back line getting no pressure. Nobody's even looking at him because the heroes that should be looking at him are not. So we need to be looking at, either you need to be taking the trades better, so you need to be doing the same thing in their backline and doing it faster and better, or then you just need to have one person pull back, keep track of Rexu, put the pressure on him, and at least make it so that your front line has a little bit of time to work with before your supports get absolutely exploded. So easier said than done. I have to obviously 100% that by saying or qualify that, but again, like we saw last week with the Pharah, something needs to deal with that Pharah, or you need to change the playstyle to a comp that can ignore the Pharah, and it's the same thing with Rex's Tracer here.
It's true. Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, you either send, I think, I can't see who's. Yeah, okay. So we will be coming out Watch from Gibraltar here. So hopefully. Tracer would not be as much of an issue you'd like to think, especially if you are a Powered Up Possoms fan or a player for that matter, so that Rexu will be having a little bit of a more difficult time accessing, the high grounds and the supports specifically. Nevi and Milky, I felt, were actually almost like not the last people to be pressured, but looked like Rexu's priority was actually more forcing out Scars, right? With meaning that Lord of Terran's job is actually just so much easier because his supports are fine, right? He doesn't care. He'll just jump in. Cool, I've got my stuff. Oh, they're supporting me. I can stay for a little bit, and then he can jump out. Whereas Scars is already starting the fight, as we saw at the start of the game. They're at like 50-40% health, right? And you can't go in. Rex's just going to chase you.
Definitely, but I think in the following fights, we weren't watching much of Rexu, but just looking at the kill feed, he was always ready to pick up the kills on the support. So Rexu's where he needs to be at every given time. That's all we can say for sure right now, whether it's on the supports or the tanks. But we have to wait and see here. Scars has now switched it up. This is a tank with a bit more options to peel, which I quite like. And I love this from Babs, bringing out the Pharah. We know Ragnarok has, at least on one occasion, had trouble against his hero. So maybe this is what you do. And they're going to start with the Pharah counter as well on the Widowmaker. So Rinku is going to have to keep his wits about him here so he doesn't get his head taken off by the Widow's Kiss.
Yeah. Widow almost had their head taken off there as Rexu, actually, funny enough. Unfortunately, James slightly misaiming and hitting the barricade there. We will see a sleep through Rexu. Please, can we take him out? The man's sleeping right there. Do they not know?
What? Babs! No, guys.
Communication there. Unfortunately, maybe Nevi didn't actually know where they slept the player there, and unfortunately that has meant that both Rinku and Rinku has survived and has actually taken out their counter and what I'm looking for, Scars, and will send the rest of Powder Possums back into spawn.
Yeah, that was a serious missed opportunity. The sleep on the main man from the opposing team on your biggest counter and gets taken out to Rinku. Yeah, he will find James once again. I think James might be looking towards a switch up here. Feast of Famine, obviously, we know very well the Widowmaker can be, and unfortunately, it's pretty rough. Nope, Sojourn's out of there a long time ago already at this point. They're struggling to find targets. They're starting to damage. Great positioning here from Ragnarok so far.
You say that, but if you would look at where Rexu is right now, Rexu is on 1 health under the bridge with no one able to support them. They're still in a terrible position, but yeah, being held up here, and I think that focus fire once again from Powder Possum just not really where it needs to be. Rexu is actually almost going to be able to solo kill Scars here, and that'll be the tank out from Powder Possums. No card progress either. Some aim missing there, unfortunately, unless Rexu was only going for that melee. Yeah, there's a little bit of unease, I sense, a little bit of maybe a little bit mental boom, I think, from Powder Possums. You're not as much talking as they would like.
Yeah, it's possible, but I think they're just a bit lost here at the very least. What their mental looks like, obviously, is hard to say, and they would have come into this as underdogs, so you're not really expecting to dominate at the very least. But yeah, they're getting caught out of position. Scars is in the middle of nowhere with no teammates around him, so it's split struggle city here. But if you look at it from another direction and think about what you need to learn, there's a lot of takeaway from this match for Powder Possums, right? It's a little bit of coordination lacking, so more time together is going to fix that naturally. So yeah, there's a lot you can take away, but there's a good start. They take down KK, need to block the res if they can, and they're getting a couple of kills here, so with the spawn advantage, maybe they can turn this into something, but Bab's dropping, Mercy will drop as well, so yeah, bit of a rough fight for Powder Possums.
Yeah, both supports dead there from XvG Ragnarok, but unfortunately for Powder Possums, the rest of XvG managed to rally around that core that we've seen so far. A lot of Terran, Rinko, Rexu, and they were able to get it through. I mean, the supports are back now, and Scars is once again back in the spawn room. Lord of Terran going super aggro straight in here. Milky looking definitely worse for wear, and that will be the kill onto the Mercy of Powder Possums. I think, Lord of Terran just able to do their thing there. Didn't really lose that much health even. Yeah, this is looking pretty rough for Powder Possums right about now.
Yeah, definitely. But you can look at what Ragnarok are doing, and you can kind of use that as a template for what Powder Possums are not doing, right? If you look at how Scars played versus how Terran played, Terran is not being the tip of the spear here at all. You would expect, Terran in the backline, nano boosted up. That's not really what you want to see on an ulted monkey, but they can do what they like right now, and they're just getting pick after pick after pick here, Frosty. It's one-sided here, and finally Ragnarok on the other side of that, unlike last week.
No, James doesn't even manage to get the final blow there. Scars is not on the point, and that is going to be an incredible hold just right under this bridge here for XvG Ragnarok. And like you said, like the first map, it was okay, right? It was I would say it was still definitely in XvG Ragnarok's kind of direction. You could see they were the stronger team. But once Rinku Herrero came in here, it has been quite literally all XvG Ragnarok.
Yeah, like that really, they looked pretty good with Cyberblade, but you can see the difference that Rinku Herrero makes here. Not even necessarily his skill as a player, but this team is just playing perfectly at the moment. And Rinku comes in knowing exactly what his role is in any composition and any team fight, and it's making a huge difference here for a team that is already dominating. So, yeah, you from the point of Powder Possums, I think Scars takes a look at what Terran's doing, and the team takes a look at how the Ragnarok is playing, and how Scars' role would change. You see Terran, like I said, is not the tip of the spear for Ragnarok. He's playing patient, he's putting pressure on when he can, he's not jumping in until there's somebody to kill, until there's pressure until he has space to jump in. That's when he's executing. And that's how you can play dive if you're playing with a relatively high pressure composition. Whereas Scars, he's tip of the spear. He's jumping in first. The backup isn't really there. It's pressure on his support. It's pressure on his DPS to get A to him and B, follow up on the damage. So it's really tough here, but they've switched it up now. A lot more static composition. They're going to lead on this Bastion, and I like this. I like to see them trying something wacky. We said that right at the start, right?
Yeah. Try something different, see how it goes. I mean, especially as of right now, you really do have nothing to lose. There's a lot of Terran. He's actually a little bit uncertain as to what to do here. I think they're going to choose to probably go after these supports here. There you go. Scars is going to pin themselves in here. Actually misses the pin there, and that is pretty supports taken out by the Monkey. James does eventually take out a lot of Terran, but I think it might be a little bit too late here. I don't even think if Powder Possoms get a touch here, it'll be like the last thing that they do, especially with a BTS fan going down there. I think this match is pretty much all but over. Maybe Scars can manage to dip his little hamster toesies onto the point here, but won't be long for this world.
Yeah, just barely gets on there. Pretty good hero to come in first here. Able to get the shields up, keep the HP up. But you can see where Babs is coming from. Sports around the corner, getting pressured back. Just kill the tank and you'll win the game right here. He's the only one around the point. Okay, Babs comes in. We'll get on the point, but take it down within moments. And that is a very one-sided match here. But I think Possoms, you look at this and you have a lot you can learn from this. And Ragnarok is a great team to lose to because they're playing, they weren't, some teams can get ahead and kind of have fun with you, kind of start messing around, but this is a team that absolutely respected Possoms until they got the W at the end here. They never did any crazy picks, they never switched up their play style, they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they executed on that very effectively, and that's something that Possoms can look at learn from. So we always want to take a positive spin coming out of these games, even if they're dominant. Last week we looked at Ragnarok getting dominated. I'm so glad to see Ragnarok on the other side of just changing it up. Exactly. And so from Possoms' perspective, it's just about figuring out an identity for your team, a playstyle identity. How do we want to play this? It doesn't have to be universal. You can think on individual maps, like what do we want to play on this particular map, and then try and execute on that. And I'm sure they came into this with some level of planning, but now they can look at how Ragnarok played their composition and think, okay, what are the elements of this that worked for them that isn't
what can we draw in?
Exactly. So that's the key here for Possoms coming out of this. For Ragnarok, it's a confidence boost. It's a huge confidence boost. Coming into the Blackwatch game last week, we are good. We've been working so hard. We're well put together. We have good comps and we know what to do with them. And then you get slammed into the ground by the enemy Pharah for 3 maps straight.
Yeah.
Now you come to this and you go, okay, we do know what we're doing. We are good at this game. We just need to figure out how to solve the problems that a team like Blackwatch were presenting. So I'm happy for Ragnarok here, and I'm excited to see what Possoms take out of this match.
Yeah, and I think a good point actually to note there is that it's not like, although like the scoreline and maybe what you would have seen in the last map there, it's not that Powder Possoms are a bad team, right? It just so happened in this match they were outclassed, right? XvG played, like as you mentioned a couple of times, they played their plan like to a T. Right? Everything they did was just so perfect, and you could see there, like the moments, especially in the first map from Powder Possoms, right? They got those picks. They executed on like a fight plan, right? But it's just 1 or 2 things that they're missing, right? Maybe they talk to their target caller. Maybe they haven't quite figured that out yet. Haven't quite got the synergies of their ults there. You saw, both DPS ults being stacked, both support ults being stacked. Obviously, there's only one tag, so they can stack their own ultimates there. But I think it's just a combination of having ringers and just being up against a team that is as good as XvG Ragnarok are, as experienced as they are. As you said, being together for a while, and you said a lot to learn, but also some positives to take out of this, right? That you did do very well in those first maps, and it was, I think, just a matter of the team was on today just a better team.
Yeah, I think so. I think a team like Ragnarok is kind of worst case scenario for a team like Powder Possoms.
For sure.
They're not giving you any opportunities to to execute on your own individual skill. And we saw that was the difference with the Blackwatch. I keep referring to that game because it's the only footage we have of Ragnarok so far.
Exactly.
It's kind of we saw the difference there was on an individual skill level, so they couldn't leverage their skill as a team. Ragnarok, whereas this time they could just do whatever. They were just perfect today in executing how they needed to, and they were giving. No, there were no chinks in their armor that powered up Possoms could effectively deal with. And I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking maybe you run the Pharah a bit more and just see.
I agree.
If you can kind of look for that same chink that Blackwatch found. But we saw it in the last game. It didn't work, so who's to say it would have worked any earlier? But just put the pressure on them. I like to see that Possoms were flexible at least. They were trying different things. They were trying to force something to happen, and that's something we didn't see from Ragnarok in their dominant defeat. But it just didn't work out today. They were definitely beaten by the better team, and I think they'll recognize that, and hopefully they'll work to become the better team in their next matchup.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, obviously we did say before this, you don't want to be losing 2 matches. So part of Possoms are in that position now where they are that like 2 matches down. So they are going to be looking to play their next 2 matches in this tournament to get themselves, hopefully 3 maps in a game, but at the very least 1 or 2, just get themselves 1 a confidence boost.
Yes, definitely.
And 2, just to like get themselves on the board. Show like, listen, we're not like just because we've lost 3-0, it doesn't mean that we're a throwaway team. We're not a bye, not by a long shot. Right? We're a team you play against, right? If you beat us, you will earn that victory.
And that's worth remembering as well with the Swiss style tournament. It's one of the strengths of it is it filters team into different brackets. So Blackwatch Ragnarok will come out of this 1-1, so they'll be facing other teams who are in that same also 1-1. So same will be said of Powder Possoms. They've lost they're down 0-2 in their results so far. So they'll be going up against another 0-2 team. So there's a good chance they go up against a team who's on their level or slightly weaker or slightly above that they can really show their skill against. When that's kind of nice thing about the Swiss style tournament. So looking forward to see what the results are, because I don't think they're the weakest team in this tournament by any stretch of the imagination. With 12 other teams, there's at least 1 or 2 that are on their level or slightly below 100%. It on paper. So if they can find their way up against those teams, they will be able to get that confidence boost as 100%. We spoke about. But obviously the goal is to be the best team you can be. Even if you're a Pugs team that was thrown together just for this tournament, you still want to be working to improve yourself and see if you can start taking the fight to teams that are on paper above your station. So looking forward to see. As the tournament gets deeper, the matches get closer and closer. That's the strength of this format.
I think that is the most important thing is not every team can be the best team. Only one team can be the best team, right? The important thing is to be the best versions of yourself and to have fun, right? And honestly, if Powder Possoms can end that match and go, you know what, there were a couple moments there where I was actually really good. I'm happy with how they went. I think that's more than enough of a victory for yourself. You're very happy with that.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
So I think that'll be the end of this match here. XvG Ragnarok taking a very dominant victory over Powder Possoms, moving themselves to 3-3 of wins and losses of maps. And so they'll be joining, as Sun mentioned earlier, other teams in that same position, and they're going to be looking to be a lot scarier now, going into the next week with a lot of confidence. And Powder Possoms, a lot to take away from this match, and a lot to work on. And I think hopefully we'll see both of these teams up again soon. Hopefully with the best they can bring.
Yeah, Ragnarok's a funny team. They're kind of in that same zone that we used to see teams like Rage Quit Odyssey be in the past, where because they're in the middle, they're not quite on the level of the tippy top teams, but they're better than the teams sort of in the mid pack. We watch a lot of their games because you every time you see Ragnarok, you're like, there's a good chance this is a close game. Either they can play up to their opponents, or their opponents can play up to them pretty comfortably. So we'll probably end up seeing quite a bit of Ragnarok, and it's not biased to the players or the teams. It's just there's a good chance we get close games out of this team. So I wouldn't be shocked if we saw more of Ragnarok, but we'll try and cover as many games as possible, of course. You all know it's called the Power Up Cup for a reason. Load shedding is a bit of a B, and yesterday for example, was one of the reasons we couldn't cast that game. So we'll try and bring as many games, try and get our eyes on as many players and teams as we can. But yeah, always excited to see how teams and the tournament develops in general.
For sure. And yeah, I think as we've been saying the whole time, it'll be a good time to see how we progress. Hopefully the teams can bring power to the country, but
stronger, more rich, more intelligent people have tried, I'm sure. So I'd be shocked if they could.
PM levels are high right now. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I've been Frosty, joined by Sun Phoenix, Peach on the production. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the next one.